Hi there, welcome to That Board Game Show. My name is James Wood, and today I'm going to show you Underwater Cities, a game of aquatic construction for 1 to 4 players, designed by Vladimir Suchy and published by Delicious Games. The Earth is overpopulated. The colonization of Mars is always 4 decades away. Only one avenue is open for human expansion: the world under the sea. Players compete to build the best underwater nation, an archipelago of undersea cities connected by a network of transportation tunnels. Kelp farms and desalination plants will provide your people with food and water. Laboratories will give you the knowledge you need to run everything more efficiently. Perhaps you will even be able to build symbiotic cities, fully integrated with the underwater ecosystem. Beginning as a single city, you will expand your network, connecting it with coastal metropolises. At a time when hunger has exceeded agricultural output and water shortages strain the bonds of the Federation of Nations, you will build a nation that is self-sustaining, perhaps even someday exporting your products to those who have been left ashore. This is your task. This is your destiny. The world's hopes lie in your underwater cities. Dun dun dun! Okay, so here's all your components. There's your setup and so on and so forth. I've gone over this quite extensively in a previous video where I did an unboxing and showed you all the bits. Today, my focus is to show you the gameplay and how the game plays and explain all the ins and outs of what's going on here. You'll see I have a secondary rulebook off to the side. This is the New Discoveries rulebook. Under the sea, a new world awaits. Welcome to New Discoveries, the first expansion for underwater cities. Inside, you will discover several new components, which will offer new ways to play and new strategies to explore. So we get a whole bunch of new cards, which I've incorporated into all my decks. Have new assistants, new starting resource tiles, new player boards, new metropolises, and the museum. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you the solo game and explaining how it works and how it differs from the standard game. I've already done all the basic setup for the solo game, and I've chosen my starting board. You'll see that this board here is dual layer and double-sided, so there's quite a few options. They do give you a recommendation in the back of the book which specific boards to start from, because you have a whole bundle of these to choose from. So in the base game, you got 4 boards, and then the expansion added 4 new ones, and all of them are double-sided, so that is 8 new boards in total, for a total of 16 different playable boards. And also in the original game, they weren't dual layer like this. So the expansion actually came with all of these. And I'm using board number 14 today, project name Underwater Cities New Discoveries. So the core of the game here is a worker placement engine building card game. So you're going to be playing out cards. You're going to be drawing new cards from this massive deck every turn. And you're going to be playing cards in conjunction with placing your action pawns over here on various action spaces, doing the corresponding action and playing a card to go with it. If the color of the card matches, then you get a bonus from that card. You'll see how that works as I play out. And the first thing to do before we start playing is a little bit of player setup. So I've set up the main board already, but now my player area needs some setup. And the setup here is slightly different from the base game. So in the base game, you would be given 1 assistant, which would stay in front of you. This is an action card that you can use during the game. And they will give you a specific action. They have no specific ongoing ability. I've chosen orange today, so here's the orange assistant. Functionally, all the assistants are the same from the base game, and this one will give me either 1 steel plast or 1 credit. Everyone is also given a end of game scoring reference card, so that's just to help you remember what your targets are and what you're going to be scoring for. And in the base game, everyone is given 1 steel plast, 1 kelp, 1 science, and 2 credits as their starting pool of resources. However, today I am playing with the quick start system from the expansion. If I was playing with multiple players, you deal a number of these tiles equal to the number of players plus 1. And then in turn order or reverse turn order, I forget which, I think it's reverse turn order, everyone gets to pick one of these tiles, and these tiles will give you your specific starting resources. This one will give us an upgraded desalination plant and an additional tunnel, and will give us 3 credits and 1 kelp. And I've forgotten that I'm supposed to have a starting city on my player board. So in this little lined space here, you always start with 1 city, because it wouldn't be much of a underwater cities if you didn't have any cities to begin with. I could take this quick start tile, which will move me up 2 spaces on this Federation track, and give me a tunnel and 3 credits, a biomatter, and a kelp. And another unique thing with this quick start expansion is instead of starting on round 1, we're going to start on round 2. Because basically this quick start tile is building up the sort of resources that you would probably spend the first round of a typical game building. I'm just going to take any old one. Let's take this one so we can show you how buildings work. So I'm going to use that one. This one gets discarded back to the box, as will this one once I've resolved it. So I will get my upgraded desalination plant, and all of these buildings and things will make sense as I play out, and you'll see what the benefits of the different buildings and structures are. I need a tunnel. I will build a tunnel over here. You'll see it covers over a kelp. So I will immediately get a kelp. So that will cover over there, and I will get 1 kelp from the supply. Then I will get 3 credits. 1, 2, 3 credits, and 1 more kelp. So I'm off to a good start with food. So kelp is the food of this game. And now that this start tile is done, that can get removed and returned to the box. Then you will see I have these 3 numbers here. We've got this 2, 2, 2. That's another variant from the New Discoveries expansion, which adds this choice of metropolises. So in the standard game, you would simply be given a metropolis of each color, and they'd go in the corners of the boards. And these green metropolises are from the expansion as well. Whereas with this board, when you see the numbers in the bottom here, it means you can choose from 2. So at the start of the game, you get given 2 blue, 2 brown, and 2 green, and you pick which one you want. So I'm just going to go with this one. This one would give me kelp when I get to it. I'm going to go with that one, and this gets returned to the box. And how these metropolises work is these are cities that are on the mainland. So we're building our network of underwater cities under the water. And as we build them, you'll see that we've got these tunnels. So our tunnels will be expanding and our network will be growing. And then as our network grows to a point where we can connect it back to the mainland at these various locations, we'll get various bonuses. For instance, this blue tile over here, when connected with the lightning bolt symbol, you will gain 1 steel plast. And whenever you see this white symbol here, that means to draw a card. And during production, it will generate 2 points if it's connected to your network. You'll see how that works during production. Then I've got these 2 green ones, which remember, these are from the expansion. In the base game, you've only got the brown and the blue. And these both give an instant benefit. They do not have an ongoing production effect. This one would give me 2 points and move me up 4 on this Federation track. Now, in the multiplayer game, the Federation track is very important because it determines turn order. And in a game of worker placement, where you're going to be placing your tiles and taking actions, being first in turn order can make a huge difference, because it can be the difference between being able to do the action you need to do when you need to do it and not. In the solo game, it's slightly less critical, but it is still kind of important, and I'll explain how later. We have a handy reference sheet. So this one is immediately build 2 buildings on 2 expansion sites for free. Ooh, I like that. Okay, I'm going to go with that second one, because that is one of the only ways to build buildings on these expansion sites. You'll see each city has 3 spots, and then one that's a different color. That one that's a different color is an expansion site, and you typically can't build a structure there. So it can be very useful being able to do that. and that will let me do it twice. This one, didn't use, goes back to the box. And then we have these two brown metropolises to choose from, and let's see, they both have end game scoring bonuses, so that's what the little clock symbol means. It means it will score at the very end of the game, which you are reminded of over here on the main board. You'll do a final production phase and you will do end game scoring. So the iconography in this game is really helpful. It really ties everything together and helps keep everything straight. So this one here will score you points for tunnels connected to cities. So if you've got 8 tunnels, you'll get 5 points. 9 tunnels will give you 7 points, and 10 tunnels will give you 9 points. So we've already started with 1 tunnel from that quick start, so that might be a good one to look at. Or this one here gives you 4 points for every set of 4 upgraded structures you have. And that's 4 different upgraded structures. So right out the gate, again, because of that quick start, I have 1 upgraded structure already here, this desalination plant. So let's see, I think I'm going to go with the tunnels because you are highly encouraged to just build tunnels throughout the whole game anyway. You're also highly encouraged to upgrade your structures. So I'm going to go for the tunnels one for now. So that's going to plop in there and that's going to go back in the box. And there are 2 final setup steps before I can start with the first turn, and that is to pick an assistant. This is unique to the expansion. In the base game, you get your standard assistant, and everyone gets the same one. In the expansion, that assistant can stay in the box, and every player gets dealt 2 assistants, which they can pick from. And you'll see that each of these assistants is slightly different. So we have a tunnel builder, which will give us a biomatter and a kelp. Biomatter is the wild resource of the game. And whenever you build at least 1 tunnel on your turn, gain 2 cards. Okay, that's quite useful. Or we can use the scientist. Whenever you use this, so you'll see it's got this action symbol, this A in the corner. So this will stay face up in front of you throughout the game. And whenever you place one of your action tokens on a space that has this A symbol, so there or there, you can use one of your action tokens by exhausting it and doing whatever its effect is at the top here. So these assistants from the expansion also have these ongoing benefits. This action is to spend 1 credit and build an upgraded laboratory on your board, which is very handy because otherwise it's a multi-step process to upgrade a structure. And its ongoing effect is whenever you take an action that would give you science, so if you go there, that will give you 2 science. There you can get a science. You will also get 1 credit. So I'm going to go with this one because I think it'll show you more of a diverse range of actions. The one you didn't choose goes back to the box, along with everything else. We are almost done with setup. The final thing to do is pick up our hand of 6 cards that we were dealt at the beginning of the game, and pick 3 of them to start with, because you always have a hand of 3 cards in this game. Now, one of the recommendations in the rulebook, which is what I'm going to follow today, is for your first game, they say don't really worry too much about what the cards do and their effects and all those things, and just make sure you have 1 of each color. And it just so happens I've been dealt a nice colorful hand of cards. So I'm going to take 1 of each color, and I'm going to take a range of different types of effects. So let's take this one into my hand. That will give me an ongoing effect once it's in play. And I'm just going to put that on my board there. We'll take this one because it is red, and whenever you see the lightning bolt symbol like that, that is an immediate effect. And we will take this one because it's another action card. Okay, and those 3 that we didn't pick are simply discarded. And so apart from all the setup elements that are changed from the expansion to the base game, the expansion really just adds a lot more of the same. So it adds a lot more cards to the deck, and it adds additional boards, and so it's very similar. It's not drastically changing how the game plays. It's just adding different modes of play. There is also one additional mode of play that I'm not playing with today called the museum. You have this additional museum board that goes off to the side, and the players can contribute to various actions there. I have no experience playing that, so I'm not going to go into the detail of how that works today, because I haven't played it yet myself, so I wouldn't be a very good instructor. Okay, so turn 1. I'm just going to play out a couple turns and show you how various elements work. I'm going to go there, which is to use an action card you have and gain any 2 of those resources, but they have to be different. And I'm going to play this orange card. So because this orange matches orange, I can keep this card in play in front of me because it is an ongoing effect. If the color did not match, then I would simply discard the card with no effect. So you always have to play a card when you place your token. This I'm going to put over here with my other ongoing effects. And now this one means, in the future, whenever I complete a connected city's second upgraded farm, gain 1 steel plast. That's rather convenient, because I don't currently have any steel plast, and steel plast is kind of important because you need steel plast to build cities. And the name of the game is underwater cities, so we need to build as many cities as we can. Oh, one element that I've kind of glossed over is these spaces that are blocked off here. This is unique to the solo game. And this is the main way that the solo game actually works, is that you have these 3 spots at the start of the game blocked off, thereby simulating another player at the table taking those actions and blocking them from me. So I can't go here and do this action, which would allow me to build a city and build one other structure. And at the end of each round, these are going to move over clockwise. This 4th color over here, this extra one, is based on whether or not I move up the Federation track during the round. If I do not move up the Federation track, which is how we determine player order in the multiplayer game, then the solo dummy player is going to block off an additional space with this token. So that's where they're incentivizing you in the solo game to still work on this Federation track, even though you're not actually going to be in turn order. You're basically always first player. And the goal of the solo game is to reach 100 points in the base game. And if you're playing with the expansion, like I am today, your goal is 125 points. So you have to get your little points marker all the way around the board and then some in the expansion. So that is quite an achievement if you can pull it off. I don't think I have yet. So we shall see how we go today. I don't know if I'll even play that far, but time will tell. Then I can use an action. So I'm going to use this action over here, which allows me to pay 1 credit to build 1 upgraded laboratory, which is very cheap because usually to build a laboratory you have to pay a steel plast, and then to upgrade a building you have to come over here or over here, wherever you see this symbol, and that allows you to spend science to upgrade your buildings. So being able to spend 1 credit and build a laboratory is very useful, and I'm going to put that on my current connected city. Whenever you build a structure, you must put it on an available building site. And you can also build structures on future sites. So if I wanted to, I could have built this laboratory over here, instead of over here, working towards it in the future. It won't do anything for me though until there's a city built there. So that's something to bear in mind. So we're just going to put it there for now because then it will actually trigger off during production. Then the next part of this action over here is to take any 2 of those resources. So let's take a steel plast because I currently have none of that. I'll put a steel plast in my collection. And do I want a science or another kelp? I'm going to take a science because I have none of that. And science is useful for upgrading buildings. I'm down to 2 cards. I draw a card at the end of my turn. And if ever you were to draw more cards during your turn, like for instance, if you were to come over here and put your action marker here, this action allows you to draw 2 cards and upgrade 1 structure or get 1 kelp. So what would happen there is you'd put your thing there, you'd play a card, you'd then draw 2 cards, and then at the end of your turn, you still draw an extra card, which means you would have 5 cards in your hand. You have to have discarded down to 3 by the start of your next turn. So if you play in a 3 or 4 player game, you have those other players' turns to think about what you want to keep. And it's only before you start your next turn that you have to discard down to 3. In this instance, I have 3 cards, and so I'm already at my hand limit. And I added this one to my hand, which lets me build a desalination plant and pay the usual cost. And what's very useful is oftentimes if the symbol is very straightforward, like this one is an instant action that just gives you 2 credits. This is an action card that gives you a steel plast and a kelp. Whenever it has something a little bit more involved, it will tell you down at the bottom here. And all the cards have little shorthand versions of how to actually use them. And if it's not on the card, it's guaranteed to be in one of these rulebooks. So it makes it very easy. You don't have to study a whole bunch of iconography and lingo and everything before you start playing. You can just dive in, start playing, and the cards really spell out what they do. Okay, next turn. What do I want to do? I think I'm going to go, considering that I'm going to have spaces blocked off next round, I think I'm going to go over here and I'm going to play this green card, which is an action card. And you'll see that this goes into play over there. And so now I will be able to use that in the future. I don't get that bonus now. I only get that bonus when I use an action space. And this action allows me to move 2 up on the Federation track. When you hit a spot like this, you get the benefit, which in this case is a credit. And that is the end of my second turn. I draw a card and we continue. Okay, so now I have 2 orange and a red. What does this new one do? This is an ongoing effect. Once per turn, when you upgrade a tunnel, gain 1 credit. That's rather nice. I quite like the look of that. So let's see now. I don't have enough resources to build another city, which is what I'd quite like to do. I need another steel plast. So I could come over here, which would give me 2 steel plast, which I think I'm going to do, because now this is one element of the solo game that's a bit different. It does quite a good job of simulating other players by blocking these spaces, but it's very deterministic. So I know for a certainty that this is going to move clockwise 1 space, meaning it's going to block that next turn. And this is my final turn of the round. So that is one element you can really plan for where the solo opponent is going to be. So let's do that. I'm going to go there, placing my token there. That's going to give me 2 steel plast, 1, 2, and a kelp, which is jolly good. It means I'm all ready to go city building next turn. Yay. And I'm going to play this red card, which is an instant effect, so it goes straight into the discard pile, and that gives me 2 credits. 1. Come on. 1, 2. And in case I haven't pointed it out already, which I don't think I have, these trays are not part of the base game. These are 3D printed inserts that I downloaded and printed. I'll leave a link down below to the Thingiverse files for where to download and print this yourself if you have a 3D printer. The base game did not come with any insert, it was just everything in baggies. And so I really, really like this game, and I decided to print out this little organizational system, and I've done a whole video covering that in an unboxing and organizational video. I'll leave that linked as well. So yeah, that little caveat, you're not going to get these little trays if you just buy the game retail off the shelf. Unless, of course, you have a 3D printer, in which case you too can have them. Where were we? We did that. I need to draw a card. Boom. And end of round. So I have got my 3 cards ready to go. Now we do some end of round upkeep. End of round steps are pretty straightforward. We advance the round tracker. We would determine a new player order where we're playing a multiplayer game. In this instance, I just check if I moved up the Federation track, which I did, which means the solo player will not place this additional token. So that resets down to there. I retrieve my tokens. and the solo player advances 1 step clockwise on every space. And play continues. Into round 2. And I've got a bunch of orange cards, so I'm going to come over here to this space, which lets me build a symbiotic or non-symbiotic city. Now, if I had biomatter, which I have no way of getting currently, biomatter is this resource type over here, and it is basically the wild resource of this game. It's a very powerful, very unique resource that can substitute for anything, and it is essential for building symbiotic cities. And why symbiotic cities are important is they will give you points during production, whereas regular cities will not. So you do want to try build symbiotic cities. Basically, thematically speaking, they are cities that are more integrated into the ecosystem underwater, so they're less harmful to the environment. I'm going to build a city over here, because I've already got a tunnel going this way. And I'm going to pay 2 steel plast, 1 credit, and 1 kelp. That is the cost of a city. And then I can build a little city dome, bink, onto my player board. Yay, I now have another city. And one of the other stipulations, which I forgot about, is in order to win the solo game, not only do you need the 125 points with the expansion, or 100 without, you also have to have built and connected 7 cities on your board. Which might sound like a lot, but you get there quite easily. The 7 cities I've managed to accomplish several times over. The 125 points, not so much. Now we can also build a kelp farm, or a desalination plant, or a laboratory. That's what the little slash means. It means or. I'm going to build a kelp farm over here. I'm going to pay 1 kelp. And I'm going to build my first kelp farm. And now I have 3 different structures connected to that city, which is one of the objectives of endgame scoring. You'll see here, at the end of the game, we're going to score for every connected city, meaning every city connected to your network by tunnels. So you could build a city. When I paid to build that city just now, I could have built it over there. I don't have to have it connected, but it's not going to produce any resources for me if it's not connected, and it's not going to score me any points. So you definitely want to connect them, but you can build them without the tunnel system. You just need to build towards it. So at the end of the game, you're going to get 2 points for every connected city, 3 points for every connected city with at least 1 structure, 4 points for every connected city with 2 different structures, and 6 points for every connected city with 3 different structures. So that is quite an important element of building out a nice diverse collection. But then other cards, like this biomech construction crew, wants you to build 2 upgraded kelp farms in the same city. So those kind of play against each other. I didn't play a card, whoopsie. So I'm going to play one of these orange ones for obvious reasons. I don't want to play a card that I just throw away. This one would let me build a desalination plant and pay the usual cost, which is 1 credit. That could be rather handy. This one is an ongoing effect. Once per turn, when you upgrade a tunnel, gain 1 credit. I'm not going to be upgrading anything anytime soon, so I'm going to play this one, which will allow me to immediately build a desalination plant, paying 1 credit, and building a desalination plant over there. If I can upgrade that desalination plant, that's one of the best ways to get biomatter, which is very nice. An upgraded desalination plant produces 1 credit and 1 biomatter during production. And all of that was my first action of round 2. Well, round 3, because we skip round 1. The second round of this game. Okay, what have we got here? We've got a new card that triggers off during production. During production, one of your connected laboratories may produce 1 steel plast and 1 kelp instead of 1 science. An upgraded lab still produces 1 additional steel plast. Okay, so your labs give you science. Once they're upgraded, they give you a science and a steel plast. So this allows you to choose, instead of the science, you can get a steel plast and a kelp. I do have 1 lab, so that could be worth trying for. But do I want to do any of these red actions? That's the question. Ooh. Yes, I do. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play over here. Play this red card, which is a production card. So it will just go over here to my ongoing effects area. And let's put you over there. So now I must just remember that when I'm doing production. And the effect of going to this action spot is I can now draw one of these special cards. And I just spotted this special card over here. Now, what makes these special is you'll see these ones over here are on the board in their matching spaces, and they cost 3 credits to play. And all of them are end of game scoring cards. This deck over here, you'll see it's got a 1 or a 2, and there's a whole deck of these cards, and the top card is face up. They all cost between 1 and 2 credits to play, and they are basically more powerful versions than what you get from the standard error decks. So this one caught my eye, so I'm going to take that into my hand. It doesn't cost anything to pick it up, it just costs to play it. And then when I play it later, I'll have to pay 1 credit, and then you may pay 1 credit and 1 kelp to build a symbiotic city. Very useful. That is much cheaper than 2 credits, a kelp, a steel plast, and a biomatter. So in essence, it's costing me 2 credits and a kelp. So it's virtually a half-price city. Very, very nice. So now that is the end of my turn. We flip over the special deck so that there's always the top card face up. I will draw a card at the end of my turn. And now I have 4 cards, so I have to discard down to 3 before I take my next turn. Obviously, I'm not going to discard this card that I just collected. This action allows you to build a desalination plant. I'm going to just discard that one. I don't think that's going to be very helpful. I'll pop that over there. Now I have 1 action left, and I can actually use this right away. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to get a whole bunch of cards. And I'm going to draw 2 cards. 1, 2. And I'll look at those momentarily. I'm going to play this card to pay my 2 credits and 1 kelp to build a symbiotic city. Jolly, jolly nice. And when you play one of these cards, if it's an instant effect, you discard it face down to the bottom of the deck. And what else? I can either gain 1 kelp or I can pay 1 science to upgrade a structure. I think I'm going to upgrade a structure. I'm going to pay 1 science to upgrade my kelp farm over here. So now I've got all my buildings upgraded there, which is jolly good. I'll be able to show you how they all work during production. And that is the end of the round. I will draw a card at the end of my turn. And now before I start my next turn, I have to discard down. I'm not going to worry about that just yet, because first we resolve end of round steps. And those are going to be to retrieve my tokens. I did not move up on the Federation track. So now, after moving the solo player's markers over 1 step, we will draw the top card of the deck, discard it, and we count this number in the bottom corner, and that tells us where to place this additional token. So in this case, with 7, we'll start over here, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If it's blocked, it just goes to the next space, clockwise. If that had been a higher number, like this card that we discarded earlier is a 219, then you would add those 3 digits together. So it would be 12. So you take the 2 plus 1 plus 9 is how you would then determine, and you'd count 12 spaces around, and that's how this additional token gets placed. So that's a very simple way to make you want to go up on the Federation track, because now there's 4 spaces blocked instead of just 3. We move that up to there, and you'll notice that this action card we used earlier has not refreshed. That only refreshes during production, which we'll be getting to at the end of this round. So let me discard down to 3 cards. When you choose an action slot that does not match your card, gain 1 card. This effect does not apply when you choose the always available slot. So the always available slot is this space in the middle here. You can always go there, and any number of players can go there to discard any card, draw 2 cards, and get 2 credits. So that's basically just there if all the spaces that you want to go to are blocked or you don't have the resources required or something. I'm going to discard that one. I don't think that's going to be super duper helpful. This one's useful, just gain 1 credit. And I think that action is not the most exciting, so let's discard that. Okay, so now we're down to 3 cards. We are in the final round of Era 1. And what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What to do? I am going to need kelp to feed my cities. At the moment I have none, and I will only be producing 1 from here. So what shall I do? Getting credits is not a terrible idea, so yes, let's play over here. I'll go there. I'll play that card, which is a federal grant. Will give me 1 credit. And I can use an action, which will be my scavenge the seafloor, send a little robot out to scavenge up some kelp and find some steel plast in the process. Rather handy, so there's the kelp I need. And I can now gain a science and a steel plast, or a steel plast and a kelp, or any combination thereof. Let's get a science, because as you saw, science is quite useful for upgrading your structures. And I will get another steel plast, because I need steel plast for building cities. Okay, I just realized I paid to build a symbiotic city earlier, and I never did it. Whoopsie. Okay, so when you get a symbiotic city, you get one of these red domes. And I'm going to put this red dome over there, which means I'm not going to take that extra steel plast, I'm going to take an extra kelp. Because if I can get this city connected, it will need food during production. If I had chosen to place it here, then anytime you see this red ring, that is a cost. So I would have to pay an additional kelp and credits to build a city there. I don't know if I had that additional kelp and credit when I actually built it, because things have changed since, so I'm not sure if I would have been able to do that. And then this white box over here means when you build that city, you get 3 points and 2 steel plast immediately, which is rather nice. But I'll rather just go this way and try build up towards this bonus over here. So that's that. Draw a card. Red and orange. You may pay 1 steel plast to immediately perform the action in any available slot. Ooh, so that's like a double action, basically. So I could go there or there, play that, and then use any of the other available slots. That could be quite useful. That could be quite useful indeed. I'm going to do that. Sometimes these cards just fall into your lap. So I'm going to go there. That's going to give me 2 steel plast and a kelp. And you may notice that I've been mixing up the order in which I play my cards. And basically how it works is when you go to a space, you always have to play a card with it. But you can choose the order in which you do it. So you can do this action and then play the card effect, or you can play the card effect and then do this action. In this instance, it didn't really make a difference either way. But for instance, if I hadn't had the steel plast, I could go here, get the steel plast, and then that would give me the steel plast I need to play this action. So now I'm going to pay 1 steel plast, and that lets me take the action of any available slot as if I just placed there. So now the question is, what action slot do I want to take? I could build another city. I could use this space to get some more cards and upgrade a structure. I haven't gone here yet, so basically this space allows you to either gain 2 science, or up to a max of 3 times you can spend up to 3 science to upgrade 3 structures. I could go here to move up the Federation track. That's probably not a terrible idea. because I don't have any green cards, so I'm not likely to do any of these. So I should probably do one of these three. This lets me build 2 desalination plants. Do I want to do that? They do give you biomatter when they're upgraded. I am just going to keep things simple, and I'm going to do this action to go up 2 spaces on the Federation track, gaining me 1 credit. Okay, then end of turn, draw a card, and we have more yellow. Oh, and look, I can go up the Federation track again. The lobbyist lets me draw a card and move up the Federation track. So I could go there and build another city, but I do need tunnels. And at the moment, the only 2 places that let you build tunnels are blocked off, which is rather annoying. Okay, I'm going to plan ahead a bit. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to get the 2 science. 1, 2 science. So now I have 3 science. So when I come here in the future, I can maximize that action. And I'm going to play this biomech construction crew. I've got 2 of those going now. And this one means whenever I upgrade a tunnel, I will gain 1 credit. So now in the future, I'm hoping to build some tunnels, upgrade them, and then get some credits from that. So that is a long game plan. End of my turn, I draw a card. And I have run out of action tokens, which means it is the end of the round. And at the end of this round, it is also the end of the era. So first thing we do is we move up to production. We do any end of round effects. So I bring back my tokens. We remove this purple one because I did move up the Federation track. So they will only block off 1 space each. And then I will do some production. So we are now in a production phase, and we come over here to our little player aid, which tells us exactly how production works. So let's just go through it systematically. Every kelp farm will give 1 kelp. Every upgraded kelp farm will give 1 kelp and 1 point. I have 1 upgraded kelp farm, so I will gain 1 point, and I will gain 1 kelp. If I had 2 upgraded kelp farms in the same city, that would be this over here, I would gain 3 kelp and 3 points. So you really are incentivized to do that. Basically what my strategy is here is I'm trying to build up here, and as soon as I connect my tunnels to this metropolis over here, this will let me build 2 structures on expansion sites. So my plan is to build up to there, then build a kelp farm over here, which will give me the 2, upgrade that kelp farm, and then it benefits that, and it benefits off that. So this is where the engine building of the game really starts to come in, as you start synergizing your cards and your actions, and everything starts to click together. Next, we will produce our desalination plants. So every desalination plant gives you 1 credit, so that is 1, 2 credits. 1, 2. And every upgraded desalination plant, like that one over there, gives you an biomatter as well. And then laboratories all produce a science, and an upgraded laboratory produces a science and a steel plast. I'll get a steel plast and a science. And now I can check this card over here, which means instead of the science, I could gain a steel plast and a kelp. So now the question is, do I want a steel plast and a kelp instead of a science? I think I probably do. Yes, let's do that. I'm going to take an additional steel plast and kelp instead of the science using my special production card. Otherwise, what was the point in playing it? Then tunnels produce. Every tunnel gives you 1 credit. And every upgraded tunnel gives you 1 point, which you are reminded of on the tunnel itself. And finally, regular cities don't produce anything. Symbiotic cities produce 2 points if they are connected, which this one currently is not, so that's not ideal. But oh well, we'll make a plan. And then we check any production from cards. So this was a modification of a production. You have some production cards that produce all by themselves. We check any production on metropolises. So for instance, once I've connected to this metropolis over here, I will get 2 points every production phase. So I'm really incentivized to get my tunnel network built over this way really quick. We now refresh all action cards that were used, and you can have a maximum of 4 action cards in play in front of you. Then we feed our cities, so our people need food. Now this one does not yet because nobody's living there because there is no tunnel connected to it. So that is purely a construction site. So we need to spend 2 kelp for our 2 connected cities. If I didn't have the kelp, I would have to spend a biomatter. If I didn't have the biomatter, I would have to lose 3 points for every kelp that I couldn't pay. And then we just have a little reminder over here that biomatter can always be substituted for kelp or steel plast. And that is the end of era 1. We advance the round marker into round 5, which is round 4 because we did the quick start. We remove the era 1 deck and discard pile. And we bring in the era 2 deck. So now we have era 2 cards, which are slightly different from the era 1 cards. And at the start of the new era, every player gets 1, 2, 3 new cards, which you can look at, add to your hand. And then you choose from these 6 cards, which 3 you want to keep for your first turn in era 2. So this new one, ooh, that's very nice. Biomatter Harvest. This is one of the expansion cards. Gives you 1 biomatter every production phase. That would be a fantastic card to have in play. This one is an immediate effect. If you have at least 2 connected cities that have at least 1 building of each type, you can build 1 laboratory for free. So I have 1 city with all 3 different types of structures. So I would just need to get 2 more over here, and then that one would be beneficial. And this one is another action card, which simply gives you 2 credits and a steel plast. I would simply choose of those 6 cards which 3 I want, and I would proceed into era 2, do another production phase, play out era 3, do another production phase, and then final scoring. I think I'm going to wrap it up there because you've seen all the basics. You've seen how most of the action spaces work. The ones I haven't done are this space here, which lets you build a city, functionally the same as this one. And basically the general idea, something I didn't touch on before, is the green actions are typically the least powerful, but the green action cards are the most powerful. And then the red actions and cards are equally balanced, and the orange actions are the most powerful, but their cards are the least powerful. So it's a clever little balancing mechanism there to incentivize you to still go for these not apparently powerful action spaces. This space over here is quite simple. It lets you either build 2 kelp farms or 2 labs. This space lets you build 2 tunnels. This one lets you build a tunnel and use one of your action cards. And let's pretend that we have fast forwarded to end game scoring, and I'll show you how that works. So at the end of the game, you would check any of your connected metropolises that have end game scoring effects. So it's pretty much always going to be your brown ones. So this one will give 5 points if you have at least 8 tunnels connected. So if I can build out a network of tunnels, I only have 1 so far, so I'm not doing terribly well towards that. But by the time I built all the way up to there, I would have quite a few tunnels on the board. Then we would score for any end game cards that we have played, which are these ones over here. So to play those, you would go to the red space, you would draw one of them, add it to your hand, and then in a subsequent turn, you can play it and pay the 3 credits. And then that will count for end game scoring. We would then check how the cities work, and I explained how that works already. You will then discard every resource you have for 1 credit, except biomatter. You will discard each biomatter for 2 credits. And then every 4 credits you have at the end of the game is worth 1 point. So as you can see, right now I have precisely 1 point. And you don't actually score a huge amount of points in-game. While you're playing the game, you're mostly building out your network, building out your engine, and working towards those end-game scoring conditions. Because, for instance, this city over here, that's 6 points. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. This city over here with one connected building is 3 points. 1, 2, 3. This one is not connected, so that's 0. And then, I'm not going to do the math now, but there's some amount of points. So you really are working towards that end game scoring. And I think that pretty much wraps it up. You've seen basically everything that there is to see. The Era 2 and Era 3 cards are very similar in function to the Era 1 cards, but as you saw, they are quite often more powerful. And before I wrap it up, if you like the look of this playmat that I've been using here, this lovely Stormy Ocean, I think it's called, really thematic playmat for this game, you can pick up this playmat and many more at emperorsworkshop.coza. I'll leave a link down below. They are a South African-based company who are custom making these wonderful, wonderful playmats. They make all shapes and sizes, they make dice trays, and they will ship anywhere in the world. So wherever you're watching from, you can head over to emperorsworkshop.coza and see if one of these wonderful playmats catches your fancy. They really make for a wonderful play experience because, you know, the cards slide on them nicely. They've got a little bit of spring, so it makes picking up cards very easy. And they have quite a big range of different styles and colors, and you can send them your own custom design and they will print it for you. And with that, I shall say thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And remember to spread the joy of tabletop gaming.